Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Expert Examiner IELTS stream. My name is Glyn, and again, I did the age-old problem where I started speaking and I wasn't live. I don't think I was live because I use something called OBS, online broadcasting software, and there's a button to start streaming. And when you click start streaming, another button comes up that says go live. And so I click start streaming, and I start speaking, and I'm not live. An interesting thing, I've just got a warning message saying the stream something, and I can't see what it says, so that's interesting. I hope you can hear me. Mark Starr, I've forgotten English. A regular follower of the channel says, thanks for the task 2 analysis. Yeah, I like doing writing checks. I do think they're useful. I mean, they don't really get a lot of views. They're far more useful if you are the candidate and far less useful, I guess, if you're not the candidate. Because, again, who wants to see feedback on somebody else's writing or somebody else's speaking? I think if you're an English teacher out there and you're looking to understand how examiners give marks and how they analyze and how they assess, this can be very, very useful because you can see how the feedback works, and then when you collect writing from your students, you can give them feedback too. But as for regular IELTS candidates, I don't think it's so interesting to watch somebody else giving feedback. I keep getting error messages. I keep getting warning messages saying that something is wrong with the stream health, but I can't even see. I've tried clicking something now. Connect your encoder to start doing something. Ugh, horrible. I'm going to close that down. Something about the bitrate being lower than the recording. I don't know. If you can hear me, can you just let me know? And if my audio is okay, can you let me know? And if it's terrible, can you also let me know? Do have the chat up here so I can read some stuff. What's up? I'm back, says Sujan. Hi, Sujan. Welcome back. Didn't know you'd gone. Assalamu alaikum. People often write things like Assalamu alaikum and things, and it's like, oh, I don't know that language. I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know what to respond with. I guess it means it's some type of greeting, I guess. Cool, perfectly audible, says Sujan. That's awesome. Everything's perfect, says Mark Star. Oktam is here too. Hello, Oktam. Sorry if I mispronounce any of your names. And Nozanin Rustamova also says hi. So glad to see a few people in there. We are going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to go through some grammar and vocab. It's something from one of the Cambridge tests, and we're going to look at B2, C1, and C2, just to see, what's expected at this level, and for you guys to see your own grammar level. So I will encourage you all to take part in this as we go along. Unfortunately, I won't be inviting people up to do speaking tests or something like this. I just want to go over some grammar and explain some things that, you should know at B2 level, C1 level, and C2 level. I'll also try to kind of connect it to IELTS and to show how it might be useful. But I think a lot of people overestimate their language level and their language use. So this will be, maybe eye-opening for you. I'm definitely a believer that people shouldn't start preparing for IELTS until their language level is there. So, if you're a very strong B2 and you want to get C1, okay, fine. If you're a strong B2 and you want to get a band 7 in IELTS, that's fine. If you're a middle-of-the-road B1 and you want to get a band 7 in IELTS preparation is not for you. Your language level has to be there or very close to where it should be, and then you should start preparing for IELTS. Your IELTS preparation really shouldn't be more than 3 months. I think maximum 6 months. You don't need to spend more than 6 months on IELTS prep. Mark Starr says, could you please teach how to use zero clauses when clauses like which or that can be dropped? So I think you are talking about reduced relative clauses. Now, I'm not here to just answer questions. I'm going to go through some tasks with you, and hopefully something connected to relative clauses will be up. The purpose of this stream the purpose of this stream isn't for me to go into detail and explain one particular grammar point. It's for you guys to do some grammar tasks and then for me to explain why the correct answers are the correct answers and to point you in the right direction to kind of show you where you might be going wrong. We do have a few viewers here, so I guess we'll start with the... Oh, we have someone from Sri Lanka. So hello to Mr. Mahesh from Sri Lanka. Cool. Nice to see you. Always nice to have different nationalities in here. But let's get into some of the tasks that we're going to look at, and I'm just going to demonstrate the types of tasks. So these are things that are called keyword transformations, and I think they really are a good judge of a person's grammar and vocab. Really checks your idiomatic language, and by idiomatic language, I don't mean idioms. I don't mean the grass is always greener on the other side. I mean natural phrasing in English. So these tasks, someone says you can always use an AI for any specific questions. You can, but AI isn't always, it's useful, but it's not always perfect. So these keyword transformations, they're good tests of like collocation, vocab use, but also things like phrasal verbs and fixed expressions, but also things like grammar. If we're talking about like passives and actives and relative clauses and conditionals and things like this, reported speech. So I'm just going to demonstrate what this task is, and we're going to look at it at 3 different levels today. First, we're going to look at it from B2. That's about IELTS 6.0, 6.5. This is grammar. I think if you have very, very good control of B2, getting a 7 in IELTS is very, very possible. So these tasks are not crazy difficult, but I'm going to go through the first one as an example for you, right? So we have a sentence here. It says, a very friendly taxi driver drove us into town. We need to use this word, driven, and we cannot change this word. So we can't change the form of driven to drive or drove or drives or anything like that, driving. We must use driven and we can't change it. And a bit of grammar analysis will show us that a very friendly driver drove us into town, and us is being fronted here. We're putting us at the beginning and turning it into we. And you might know about something called passive voice, right? I speak English. English is spoken by me. I ate something. Something was eaten by me. A very friendly taxi driver drove us into town. We were driven where? Into town. Passive, often see this preposition before the agent. We were driven into town by a very friendly taxi driver. So at the upper end level, you use between 2 and 5 words to do this task. Between 2 and 5 words. So let's see how you guys do with the first one. We're going to go through these step by step. We have, hopefully you can see it, this one here. I think it's visible. Yep. Let's just move it slightly across. Yeah. So we have this one here. Martin never goes to bed without having a shower first. And we need to change this sentence. We need to transform this sentence. Instead of never, we have always. And we must use this word has. We can't change it to have or had or having. Martin always to bed. Remember, you may use between 2 and 5 words to complete this. Martin always what to bed. Please do put your answers in the chat and I'll see what you have. This is just testing present simple and a very, very common collocation. So I'll sit and drink some tea. I know there's a little bit of a delay between when I speak and what you hear. So there might be a little bit of a delay at times, but when you're ready, put the correct answer in the chat and we'll see who can get it or who can get it first. Aziza asks, is it passive voice? Yeah, the first one, we're driven into town by, that's passive voice. And we have an explanation of Assalamu alaikum, so thank you for that. Okay, so Marat has written, Martin has a shower before going to bed. Cool, but the only thing is you forgot always. Martin always has a shower first, then goes to bed. Now, Aziza, you've broken a rule, right? You must use between 2 and 5 words. You've used has a shower first, then goes. That's 6 words. So do be careful to work within the word limit. But yeah, you've got the answer. Fairly simple, right? Present simple. Martin, let's put that answer in there. Martin always has a shower. Let's make it blue so it's more visible. And let's make it a bit bigger. Martin always has a shower before going. Martin always has a shower before going to bed. So what's being tested here? Well, first of all, has a shower, but also this use of before plus gerund. So we could say before he goes. Now, Raju writes before go to bed, but that's incorrect because after before we need this gerund form, before going to bed. So you can also make up some other sentences, right? I always brush my teeth before going to bed. I always wash my face before going to bed. I always watch YouTube videos before going to bed. But that before doing something. Cool. So Jasur got it there right too. Awesome. So let's move to the next one. Let's have a little bit of analysis of this one. So the next one we have is Tina was too frightened to stay in the house on her own. Now, you might, if you're really smart here, you might, or not if you're really smart, if you're very familiar with English, you might recognize this would have stayed. Would have stayed is part of a conditional. What part of a conditional is it part of? So if you know your third conditionals, you might have a chance of getting this one right. Tina would have stayed in the house on her own, so frightened. You must use the word been. Tina would have stayed in the house on her own, so frightened. If you know your third conditionals, you might have a chance of getting this one right. Feel free to... I always take tea before going out of home. Yeah, going out of home sounds strange. Before leaving home, before leaving my house, before going out is fine, but out of home is a bit strange. Out of my home, maybe. So Marat writes, if she hadn't been. Anyone else? Yes, Marat knows his grammar. Just wait to see if anyone else wants to put anything, any other suggestion in there. Tina would have stayed in the house on her own if she had not been. Cool. So if she hadn't been is correct. If she had not been is also correct. Yeah. So you might know that this is a third conditional, that we use this if plus past perfect. I don't know if you know the names of all of our tenses in English, but this had done something, had known, had seen, and in the negative, had not known, had not seen, had not been, plus would, plus a perfect infinitive. Tina would have stayed in the house on her own if she hadn't been so frightened. Really good if you got that conditional. Third conditional, we teach it right at the end of B1, and then we consolidate it and develop it and expand more at B2. So at B2 level, you should be familiar with, first, second, third conditionals, maybe some mixed conditionals, and you might, when we think about C1, we think of being able to use conditionals also in the continuous. If I wasn't working right now, I would be spending time with my friends, something like this. Those conditionals, they exist at very low levels and at very high levels. But yeah, this one is a third conditional. Next one we have, things will start getting more complicated soon. Don't worry, if these are easy for you, things will get a bit trickier soon. So number 27 here, it will not be possible to buy tickets for the match until, keyword, until next Monday. Sale. Tickets for the match will, we still have until next Monday. Notice here, it will not be possible, but tickets for the match will. So we have a negative will not, and we have a positive will here. You'll also need to know, it's difficult to give hints without giving away the answer, but there's like a little prepositional phrase. Curious also to see if you get the positive negative thing here too. So I'll give you guys a few moments if you want to write the correct answer in the chat. And remember, there is usually some small delay between when I speak and when you hear me. Nobody has any answers for this one? Maybe everybody left. Maybe nobody wants to study grammar. Oh, no, we do have some message. Okay, cool. Maybe there's a bit of delay. Not be on sale. So does that work? Tickets for the match will not be on sale. That's very close, and maybe it could be accepted. Won't have been sold, Murat, is a little bit different. So we're talking about the availability of tickets. We're not talking about whether they are sold or not. It's actually not passive. Tickets for the match will not sail. So we can't use will not sail, right? Will is a modal verb, and after modal verbs, we always need another verb. Will do, will run, will eat, will sleep. Will not sail doesn't work because we don't have a first form verb there. Tickets for the match will not be for sale. Oh, to be for sale. That's nice, but I don't think it's quite the exact answer. Tickets for the match will not be for sale. I actually think that kind of works. Will not be sold is not quite. Won't be on sale, Murat. You're definitely in the right area, but can we change the verb be? So to be on sale is okay as a state. Can we think of... No, we can't use won't on sale because we need a verb. Won't plus a verb. Be on sale is okay, but can we think of an alternative for be? So instead of be, can we use a different verb? Tickets for the match will not be on sale. Maybe be on sale is acceptable, but there's definitely another verb which is better than be. And again, this is what we mean when we talk about idiomatic language in the IELTS, right? So for a band 7 or higher, you need to have a good use of idiomatic or some use of idiomatic language. And we don't mean that's the way the cookie crumbles or it's raining cats and dogs. We mean little expressions like this. Be on sale is okay. Get on sale is something that somebody said, Murat has said get on sale. But the correct answer is go on sale. I haven't checked I don't even have the correct answers, so I'm only working this out myself. Tickets for the match will not go on sale. Now, could we use be? I think I would accept be here too. will not be on sale, but I think go on sale is definitely better. To go on sale. Strange one, isn't it, the use of go? Sometimes you see those words like go meaning become, like to go crazy, or to go bald, or to go on sale. AJ writes, will not be available until next Monday, but AJ, unfortunately, you're missing this important rule that we must use this keyword. Tickets for the match will not go on sale. We have to use that word sale. Will not go on sale until next Monday. So be on sale, I think, is acceptable, but go on sale is definitely a bit more idiomatic. Okay, two more at the B1. I think two more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. No, a few more at the B2 level. Let's see how you do with this next one. The only keyword, the only vegetable that Helen dislikes is cabbage. The only vegetable that Helen dislikes is cabbage. Now notice the use of the the singular form vegetable here, and then the plural form of vegetables. That's the keyword. That's the keyword. And also, when we read it, Helen, from cabbages. So we're looking for an expression with from cabbages. That keyword from will also help. I'm interested to see who can get this one. The only vegetable that Helen the only vegetable that Helen dislikes is cabbages. Any suggestions for this one, folks? So AJ writes, Helen dislikes nothing apart from cabbages. Now the problem, AJ, this is 2 times in a row. You haven't used the keyword. The keyword is vegetables. You must use this word vegetables. Let's use that one. You must use this word vegetables. If you don't use this word vegetables in this task, then it's incorrect automatically. Surgevolt writes, can accept come with from. Don't really get that. Sorry, I don't know what you're asking. So we have to say Helen from cabbages, but we must use this word vegetables. Must be used. Nobody has this one? Helen dislikes no vegetable. Now again, AJ, the problem you have, you've used vegetable in the singular, but you must use vegetables in the plural. You must use vegetables in the plural. Helen likes vegetables apart from cabbages. The problem with this one is that you're missing this idea, the only vegetable that Helen dislikes. Helen hates all the vegetables. She doesn't, Marat. She doesn't hate all the vegetables. The opposite, actually. Cool. Aziza, Helen likes all vegetables apart from. Fantastic. Exactly. Helen likes all vegetables, and that word all is like that word only, and that word apart from. That's the word, that's, you know, when we talk about exceptions. I like all music apart from jazz. I like all films apart from The Matrix. Or I like all streaming platforms apart from Netflix. Or I like all IELTS YouTubers apart from IELTS Advantage, for example. Helen likes all vegetables apart from cabbages. You got it, Aziza. Well done. We just have 2 more from the B2, and then we're moving on to some difficult stuff. Okay. Now, this one, 29 will be tricky. 29 will be tricky. I think it's just, my head is just blocking a little bit. So let's put that, now it's visible. So, when Alex has finished his essay, a friend is going to check the spelling for him. Now, there is a little construction in English that we call causative passive. We teach it at B2. We do not teach it at B1. We start teaching it at B2. So this is one of the trickier examples at B2. He is going to a friend. Now, I've mentioned that it's passive, so a friend, that last word before a friend, that should be obvious. But who can get this? Who knows their grammar? Who knows this causative passive? A very tricky one for a lot of candidates. And these, as an examiner, these are the types of constructions that I think sound really, really well when they are used correctly. This one in 29. But can you find it? Big, big question. So even at B2 level, we can see that the grammar is not super easy. And people, get some of the answers right, some of the answers not so right. If you're getting a lot of these wrong and you're hoping for a band 7 in IELTS, I think it means that you should probably forget about IELTS a little bit and learn some grammar and vocab, or learn some language. Yeah, so waiting for your answer on this one. I'll be quiet a little bit. When Alex has finished his essay, a friend is going to check the spelling for him. Passive, he is going to a friend. I'll give you a few minutes to put your answers in. Do I need to zoom slightly? Any suggestions for the right answer here? Well, I guess not. Remember, there is a little bit of a delay between when I speak and when you write. So if I'm saying there are no responses and there is a response in the chat, sorry, it's that I'm like 2 minutes in the past from you. 2 minutes in the future, I'm not sure. But this is a lovely little construction, and it's called the causative passive. And some people know this construction as have something done, right? The most common way that we use this is have my hair cut. I had my hair cut yesterday. Oh, we do have some answers. He's going to have or get his spelling checked. Cool. Have something done or get something done. And AJ also writes he's going to have the spelling checked by a friend. Planned future action. Well, okay, going to shows that it's a future or that it's a plan or an intention, fine. But the lovely little construction is this causative, and we can use have something done or get something done. Have or get. And I think his spelling checked by. The spelling checked is also acceptable. He's going to have his spelling checked. He's going to get his spelling checked. He's going to have the spelling checked or get the spelling checked by a friend. Yeah, really, really lovely little construction. And that's the type of stuff. So many people try to use inversion and like crazy passive reporting structures or something in IELTS. But the use of causative passive, I think, is really, it shows really good language skills. So if you got that one correct, then awesome. Well done. Really nice. Even if you got it right without knowing that it's causative passive, that's fine. You don't need to know all of this linguistic jargon. Being able to find the right answer is more important. Raju also says when Alex has finished his essay, he's going to have the spelling checked by a friend. Also, great. Have the spelling checked. Really good. Great. Okay. Then finally, the last one from B2, before we move on to C1, before we move on to the advanced, more difficult stuff. 30. I'm sorry to disturb you when you're so busy, said Tom. So I thought maybe it could be reported speech, but it's not reported speech. Please, you when you're so busy, said Tom. So we need to know a little expression with excuse. Do we know the verb pattern? Like we know, for example, maybe we know verb patterns like tell somebody to do something, or maybe stop somebody from doing something, or maybe accuse somebody of doing something. These are called verb patterns, complex verb patterns, and the use of them at B2 and C1 level is really important. B1s tend not to use them so much. B2s and C1s really should be using them. Do you know this verb pattern with excuse? I'm sorry to disturb you when you're so busy, said Tom. Please. When you're so busy, said Tom. I'll give you a few minutes to write your answers in. So Humayun says, please excuse me if disturb you. Now, after if, we almost always, not always, but we almost always use a subject. Please excuse me if I disturb you. That is possible. Yeah, it is possible. Please excuse me if I disturb you. There's definitely a better one. Aziza says, please excuse... Oh, that's the one I just read. AJ says, please excuse me for bothering you. That's the construction I'm looking for, right? Excuse somebody for doing something. Excuse somebody for doing something. Now, AJ, you've written, please excuse me for bothering you, but what's the verb that is used in the original? Is it bother? You've used a synonym for bother, but let's use this verb. Humayun says, if I just a typo. If I just a typo. Yeah, okay. Excuse me for disturbing. Cool. And I think that's the better one. Please excuse me if I disturb you. That's also workable, but certainly the best one here is, please excuse me for disturbing you. When you say, please excuse me if I disturb you, if suggests that maybe there's some doubt, and this one, there's no doubt there. That person really thinks that they disturbed them. I'm sorry to disturb you when you're so busy. It's not if, there's no doubt there. Please excuse me for disturbing you when you're so busy. So this is the verb pattern. Excuse somebody for doing something. if you can use that type of language regularly, stop somebody from doing something, accuse somebody of doing something, excuse somebody for doing something, apologize to somebody for doing something, all of these complex verb patterns, definitely help if you're aiming for that 7. But this is just the B2. Right? So this is just B2 level. If you struggled with this, if you had difficulty with this, I would say your IELTS level is probably 6.0, 6.5. If you got about half of them right, probably your IELTS level is about 6.0, 6.5. If you got most of them right or all of them right, you're looking more towards the 7. And we'll see how you do with the 7, with the next set. So the next ones, they are a step up. They are a step up. They're a little bit trickier. And this time, the same rule, the same type of task, but this time you must use between 3 and 6 words. So the last one I think was between 2 and 5, wasn't it? This one is between 3 and 6 words. And the first one we have, is my head in the way? I think it is. The first one we have, let's look at this one together. I've just noticed, so present perfect, I've just noticed that the car has almost run out of petrol. Whew. Now, interesting if you know how this little adjective left works. It's kind of like a prepositional adjective. I've just noticed that the car has almost run out of. Lovely little expression. My phone's run out of battery. Oh no, I've run out of milk. I need to go to the shop. Oh, damn it, we've run out of toilet paper. It means we've used it all. The car has almost, and we see hardly kind of connects to almost. I've just noticed that the car has almost run out of petrol. And again, we have, I've just noticed that. And do you know how to use these constructions with left and hardly? This is the C1 stuff. This is not easy. Behruz is already in. Oh, and Marat is already in. The car has hardly any petrol left. So, Marat, the problem with that, right? The car has hardly any petrol left in the car. The car has hardly any petrol left in the car, right? You have to read the sentence to the end, in the car. So your sentence doesn't quite make sense. Behruz says, I've just noticed that hardly any petrol is left. Now, I understand what that means, right? And if this was on the IELTS scale, I would say, yeah, it's understandable, it's comprehensible, but the phrasing is awkward. It's not very idiomatic. The phrasing is awkward. So that sounds like something, you know, maybe a 6, 6.5 would say. Hardly any petrol is left in the car. Sounds okay. But there is a nicer expression. Yes, Humayun says, I've just noticed that there is hardly any petrol left. That's what we're looking for. So very often with this left, we often use this there is, there are. There is hardly any petrol. Hardly any means almost no. There's almost no petrol left. There is hardly any petrol left in the car. Really nice, Humayun. Well done. Good job. So this is C1 stuff. I've just noticed that there's hardly any petrol left in the car. I've just noticed there's hardly any milk left in the fridge. I've just noticed there's hardly any toilet paper left in the bathroom. Yeah, not easy. All right. Okay, this one, I think 26 might be a little bit easier, maybe. 26. I didn't know, noticing the past. I didn't know that cars were, noticing the past. I didn't know that cars were so expensive in this country. Ooh, and you need to know a nice little verb with so much. A lot. Connected to being expensive. So can you paraphrase this? Something is expensive, something so much, something a lot. And we need to find this expression with idea. I'll give you a few minutes to put your answers in for this one. This one is C1 grammar, by the way. So Sanjar says, have no idea. Now, I mentioned, didn't I, Sanjar? I didn't know, past, that cars were so expensive, past. We need to match that in the answer. And AJ says, I had no idea cars cost. Got it. Had no idea that cars cost. So we can add that. We don't have to, but we can. I had no idea, with that or without that, cars cost. I had no idea cars cost so much. So cost a lot is another way of saying that something is expensive. It's very expensive. It costs a lot. I had no idea that cars cost so much in this country. Good job. Let's move on to the next one. I see so many mistakes with this verb let, because, yeah, it's kind of an exception. It has a slightly strange verb form. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the size so that it's visible. I think that should be okay. I'll just move to the side. Command, imperative. Don't get depressed because of such a small problem. So, two things you need to do here. So, there's a polite way of making an imperative. You shouldn't. Don't get depressed. And we also need to know a little expression, a very idiomatic expression with down. And I think most of you will know this, but it's that type of language that's really, really impressive. Ali says, don't let yourself down. That has a different meaning. That means don't disappoint yourself. It is such a small problem that you should not let yourself down. Not quite. It's such a small problem that you shouldn't. So not let yourself down. Let yourself down means to underperform, to do worse. You know, you're playing tennis against that person and you are much better, but you lost. You let yourself down. You disappointed yourself. You underachieved. This is not about underachieving. If you know the Beatles, let it make you out and down? No. Rabin just writes feel. Like Alexander Usyk, I am feel. You shouldn't feel down. We have to use... Prabin, we have to use between 3 and 6 words. Between 3 and 6 words. So feel doesn't meet that, unfortunately. So this one has two bits of language in there. Constructions with get and a little expression with down. Some of you have done okay with some of these C1 ones, but it's clear that these ones are kind of causing you problems. And this is really, you know, if you're aiming for higher than a 7, if you're aiming for an 8, you should be comfortable, fairly comfortable with this kind of language. Of course, if you're only aiming for a 7, maybe you don't need to use this type of language. Any other suggestions for this one? I think I'll move on. So, you shouldn't let it being small problem, you shouldn't let it get you down. You shouldn't let it get you down. It gets me down. Let it be, says Behruz. Okay, nice. I'm trying to think of the Beatles song. Don't let me down. It's different. Let it be. Let it you down. Close. You shouldn't let it get you down. If something gets you down, it means it makes you depressed. It makes you sad. Oh, the weather's really getting me down today. It's getting me down? What gets you down? And it's one of those little phrases that sometimes people learn it, but they don't have full control over it, so they maybe use it wrong. And, yesterday Arsenal lost to Manchester United. I really don't like Manchester United, so when they win, it really gets me down. It gets me down. Makes me depressed. You shouldn't let it get you down. Lovely little expression. The next C1. Ooh. Whenever I see this, it is reported that. I know what grammar's coming. It's passive reporting structures. We have a lot of difficult passives, right? We learn passives at A2, at B1, at B2, and at C1. This type of passive construction, this next one, we teach it, we introduce it at B2, and then we consolidate it at C1. So I wouldn't expect a B2 user. I would expect a B2 user to have some familiarity with the construction, but they have no ability to use it and control it. So IELTS candidates of B2, what about Pimblett? Yeah, he lost, but it wasn't really fair, was it? IELTS candidates at band 6.0, 6.5, they cannot use this construction. IELTS candidates at band 7, also maybe not, but when I see it used effectively and appropriately, it's usually by band 8 candidates, this next construction. So let's have a look at the sentence. It is reported that he is now recovering in hospital. So we also have to pay attention to that he is recovering, this continuous aspect. It's not he recovers, but he is recovering. That's also going to play a part, this aspect, this continuous aspect. In English, we have simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous aspect. A lot of jargon, a lot of terminology. Can you find the right answer? It is reported that he is now recovering in hospital. He is reported. Ooh. And you have to transform the verb recover into the noun recovery. So you have to know this collocation. What verb goes with recovery? A recovery. Do we have a recovery, eat a recovery, drink a recovery? What verb goes with it? Really not easy. This is a tricky one. Okay, AJ says he is reported to be in recovery in hospital now. I like that. He is reported to be in recovery in hospital now. That works. Prabin, yours is not correct because you didn't use the word recovery, and you must use the word recovery, but you didn't. Behru says he is reported undergoing. After these reported, like he is known, he is said, he is believed, he is reported. We don't use these ing forms. He is reported undergoing recovery. I like the attempt, though, at undergoing recovery. It's not a bad collocation. There is a more common one. AJ's answer is the best so far, but there is a better one. Reported being recovered. Now, Marat, you've changed this word recovery to recovered. We can't change this word. We need to use recovery, not recovered. So I'll give the answer for this one. So these reporting structures, he is known, he is said, he is believed, he's understood. We use them with a type of infinitive. He is reported to be making a recovery. He is reported to be making a recovery in hospital right now. These are called passive reporting structures. We introduce them at B2 and we consolidate them, we repeat them at B1. It can be very, very useful for what we call hedging language. When we're not sure about something, you'll see it in news articles a lot. Like, the man is believed to have been arrested, or he is reported to be I'm not saying he is making a recovery and trying to create distance. Really, really good to use this in your IELTS essays, right? Many people are known to do this. Many people are believed to have done something. That type of hedging language can give your academic writing that nice tone, that nice feel. Very often people use, absolutist language. Everybody knows that it is a bad idea. It is believed by many to be a bad idea, is far more academic in tone. So these are really nice constructions. And we have, I think, 2 more from the C1 before we get to the madness of C2. And C2 is just insane. We'll go through the C2 ones pretty quickly. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Laura's teacher, is my head in the way? No, not quite. Good. Laura's teacher says that she is talking about Laura. Laura's teacher says that she doesn't have a serious enough attitude to her work. If you left school recently, you may have had a teacher who said the same thing about you. Laura's teacher says that she doesn't have a serious enough attitude to her work. Laura doesn't. So we're looking for a nice expression with seriously. There's a verb. There's a verb that I'm not going to say. Something seriously. And then we want to change this Laura's teacher says. So there's a little expression when we talk about the source of the information, where we got the information from. We often use this to her teacher. Can you find it is the question. And I'm out of tea. I'll give you a minute to put your suggestions in. If you become an English teacher, this is the type of stuff it takes years and years and years to learn. All of this grammar, it's insane. Well, I can see the stream has had a total of 106 views. Wow. Okay, we have a few answers in. Laura does not take her work seriously according to her teacher. Very good, Behruz. Doesn't take her work seriously. Good, Murat, but we also need that according to. Humayun says doesn't take her work seriously according to. Great. Aldar says treat work seriously according. So treat work seriously, treat something seriously isn't as idiomatic, isn't as natural as take. Doesn't take her work seriously enough. Oh, we really should have that enough. Doesn't take her word seriously enough according to. Now, if you miss the word enough in the real test, you might lose a mark for that. You might, all of these tasks have 2 marks associated with them. Ali says, as a native speaker, learning grammar should not be that hard. Trust me, there's a lot to learn. It doesn't matter if you're an English teacher, a Russian teacher, a Chinese teacher. If you're learning all of the grammar to teach it, trust me, it's really, really, it takes a long, long time to do this. So Laura doesn't take her work seriously enough. It's not just that she doesn't take it seriously, but she doesn't have a serious enough attitude. So she doesn't take her work seriously enough. And again, that little expression, according to her teacher. One more from the C1 task before we move to the madness of C2. And C2 will probably frustrate you and annoy you, but it's still useful to know. I think it's very useful to know what C2s are expected to know. Anyway, 30 looks like an easy one, right? What's confusing you so much? what's confusing you so much? So there's a little expression, so much, that will link to this word lot. Do you know another way of saying so much that includes the word lot? Difficult. And also, we want to find some word that matches, that links with confusion. Because we have the verb confusing here, but now we have this noun confusion. What is it that's verb, then some expression that means so much with lot plus confusion? I will be amazed if anyone gets this right. Don't use ChatGPT. Causing a lot of, you're on the right path. Behruz also says causing a lot of. But we need to match this so much. And it's not just a lot, but we need something that goes with so much. So a lot is slightly different to what is it that's creating a lot of confusion, says AJ. Yeah, possibly, but a lot of doesn't quite match with so much. So does anyone have any other suggestions how we can link so much, not just a lot of? Such a lot. There we go, Ali. There we go. That's what we're looking for. What is it that's causing you such a lot of confusion? What's confusing you so much? What is it that's causing you such a lot of? Somebody says creating confusion. Again, creating confusion, it's understandable. And when we look at band 6 and even band 7, we look at the vocabulary choice and we say, okay, it's inappropriate word choice, but it's still understandable. So, it's creating me a lot of confusion. Okay, but what is it that's causing you such a lot of confusion is far more precise. And when we talk about precision of vocab, it's in there, in the band descriptors. You can read it, that the candidate uses precise vocabulary. That's what we mean. Causing you, what is it that's causing you such a lot of confusion is a lot more precise than what is it that's creating a lot of confusion. So that precision of vocab, that's the difference. But some of your attempts are fairly decent. I can see, the average in the chat, I think, is around about that 6.57 on the IELTS scale. Making confusion, but we also need that you. What's confusing you so much? What is it that's making confusion? Again, Rosani, you have to, in this task, you have to use between 3 and 6 words. So we can't just use making. But that's the advanced stuff. So this is the type of language that if you're hoping for a band 7 point, well, maybe a bit higher than a 7.5 or 8, you should be fairly comfortable using that language. It's getting me down. Things like this. Getting onto the C1. Now, the C1 stuff is madness. If you struggle with it, that's fine. I could give this task to my parents or to my siblings, and they would have big problems with it. I promise you that. But let's take a look at it for fun. The first one isn't crazy difficult. This one is between 3 and 8 words, so you have a lot more words to play with. Sorry, this is not C1. This is proficient. C2. So this is the big boy, big girl stuff. Do you refer to speaking IELTS or overall? I'm talking mostly about speaking. The stuff that we'll see in C2, you probably don't need it for your speaking at all, but some of it can be useful in the writing part and even in the reading part. I think that's the thing that helps people a lot to get those band 9 marks in reading. it is the knowledge of C2 language, because a lot of people think, oh, I understood all of the text, but I couldn't answer the question. But really, there are often little bits hidden in the grammar that can stop people from getting a higher mark. But anyway, let's get into the C2 stuff, the really tricky stuff. Louise should have been given, so we have a past modal should have been given, past modal passive should have been given more time to complete her thesis. Louise should have been given more time to complete her thesis. It's obliterated by your head. Yeah, I've moved it. Interested to see what tense you guys choose here, because there is a little trick or a trap in there from the test makers. But I don't think this one is crazy difficult, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody got this one right. My head is out of the way now. No suggestions for this one? Louise was given insufficient time. You got it, Behruz. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So it's at C2 level, but it's one of the friendlier ones. You know, some C2 things are more difficult than others. Louise was given, past simple passive, was given insufficient time to complete her thesis. So not a crazy difficult one to start with. They will get trickier. Louise was given. Some people might write present perfect here. Louise has been given, but I don't see any reason to use present perfect. You might look at Louise should have been given and say, well, that's present perfect, so the answer should be present perfect. No, past modals are not present perfect. Should have been given is not present perfect. So past simple, Louise was given insufficient time to complete her thesis. Great. Let's get into something a bit tricky. Trying to make sure that my head doesn't block it, but also that it's big enough, because I know some people use their phones. Okay. I can make it slightly bigger. Should be perfect. Yeah. So, the next one. We have to think carefully. We have to think carefully about our other expenses. So notice the position of our other expenses. That's being moved to the front. That often means that we need something passive. We have to think carefully about our other expenses before we decide. And notice that's all the same. Before we decide to buy a new car, before we decide to buy a new car. Great. So all of that stuff afterwards, you can forget about. Our other expenses, and you need to use this word taken. And again, we have a lot of expressions with take in English, like to take advantage of somebody, to take after somebody, to trying not to give away the answer, to take a look at something. A lot of expressions with take, to take something up. Do you know what expression think carefully about something? And also, can you make this passive? Tricky. So Humayun says are taken into account, but you've lost the modality there. Coda says should be taken into account, but you've also used slightly weaker modality. We have to is strong modality. Brian says this seems like a fun activity. Well, you're here for the C2 stuff, Brian. Okay, now we're getting closer, Mirza. Have to be taken into consideration. Really, 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 really nice. Can we do something with this word carefully? Is there anything? Can we add this carefully? Taken into account is also okay. I think taken into consideration is probably a little bit better, but can we try to include this idea of carefully? Where are we going to Where are we going to put this word carefully, or how are we going to change this word carefully? Our other expenses must be taken into account. Okay, we've had that answer. I think taken into consideration probably sounds a little better, but we also need to think of that word carefully. And again, I will remind you that there is a small delay between when I speak and when you hear me. So if you've already written something, must taken, AJ, you've just used 2 words, but you must use between 3 and 8 words in this task. Humayun says, have to be taken into consideration carefully. Ali says accurately. We don't want to change the word. We don't want to find a synonym. We can use morphology of the word carefully, like we can change it from an adjective to a verb or to an adverb or something like this. Have to be carefully taken into consideration. Coda says thoroughly, but again, you're looking for synonyms, and we're not looking for synonyms. We're looking to use morphology of the word carefully. We want to change it. I'm going to spoil the answer for you. Our other expenses either must or have to. Both of those are absolutely fine. They have high-level modality. Let's go with what they say. Our other expenses have to be taken into careful consideration. That's the most accurate response. Our other expenses have to be taken into careful consideration. Ooh, Humayun got it right at the end. Have to be taken into careful consideration. So again, you might look at this and think, well, this is insanity, isn't it? This is from a C2 level English test, and there is a lot of criticism of this test. So it's taken from CPE, Cambridge Proficiency. There's a lot of criticism that the language sounds weird, that the language doesn't sound natural, and it's certainly not the type of language that is always good for you to use in your IELTS speaking. Some of the language, if you can use it with control, can be really useful in IELTS writing especially, and sometimes in speaking, have to be taken into careful consideration. That's fine. In speaking part 3, can I use must? Absolutely, Rosani. Our other expenses must be taken into careful consideration. So if you're in IELTS part 3 in the speaking, someone might ask you, like, oh, what can governments do to make sure that people recycle more? And you might say, well, there are a number of things that have to be taken into careful consideration. First of all, is it fair and just to punish people who don't recycle? Personally, I don't think that the government should do that. So you can see how some of this language can be activated. AJ says it doesn't feel natural. It certainly feels a little bit academic, perhaps. Do you think you need the C2 to get a good score? No, not necessarily. I mentioned all of the stuff in C1 you should be comfortable with. But I do think that C2s have a reasonably good knowledge of this, have to be taken into careful consideration. Go and watch the C2 speakers. I have a playlist of the C2 IELTS speakers, and you'll see that they do use language of this complexity fairly regularly. Certainly not in part 1, but in part 3 there is scope to use it. Anyway, let's move forward. Let's have a look. She believed she I don't like this, she believed she was very likely to win the scholarship. Well, that doesn't seem too difficult, does it? She believed she was very likely to win the scholarship. She believed, and you need to use this word chance. So we're looking at this very likely, right? We use very likely to talk about high probability, not maximum probability. Not she was bound to, but she was very likely. So we need to think of a construction or an expression with chance that means very likely. And we need to fit that in to this she believed the scholarship. Not the easiest one. We'll see how you do with this. I've already found 2 workable answers. Idar says there is a high chance to win. Just think, Idar, about the tense that you're using, right? She believed, past. She was likely, past. So think about that. Behruz says she believed that there was a chance of winning the scholarship. Good. And Mirza also adds this extra flavor, which is very, very important. She had a good chance, not just a chance. So if it was something like she believed she might win the scholarship, she believed she had a chance. But like AJ's using, like Mirza's using, and like Humayun, a good chance. And that's what we want, a good chance. A very good chance, maybe. So there are two. The one that I prefer is construction with there is, there are, there was, there were, right? She believed there was if you want to use a very good chance of her winning. For me, that's the nicest construction. She believed there was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to take out that very. She believed there was a good chance of her winning the scholarship. Now you could say, you could also add something like, she believed there was a good chance she would win the scholarship. She believed there was a good chance she would win the scholarship. Or you could use something like, she believed she had a good chance of winning the scholarship. So for me, all of those three are perfectly workable. She believed there was a good chance of her winning. She believed there was a good chance she would win. She believed she had a good chance of winning. But the key construction here is have a good chance. And I think the best one is have a good chance of doing something. There is a good chance of it raining tomorrow. There's a good chance of it raining tomorrow. Definitely sounds C2-ish. You know, I think it will rain tomorrow. Okay. There's a very good chance of it raining tomorrow. Feels very, very C2-ish. All right. I don't think this one is... Oh, this one has the potential to cause confusion too. And I can see decent equals good equals likely. Well, a good chance... Ali, I don't think you need to change it so much. A good chance of something happening means that something is likely to happen. You have a good chance of getting a good mark in your IELTS test. You have a good chance, or there is a good chance of you getting a good mark in your IELTS test. Means it's likely. Anyway, this one, the next one. Yesterday, past time, I seemed to do nothing but answer the phone. I seemed to do nothing. Again, the use of this word seem plus infinitives, that shows real skill with the language to appear and seem. Again, it's distancing language. Yesterday, I seemed to do nothing but answer the phone. Oh, and yesterday, I seemed... But now we need to use the word spend. Now, I think most people know constructions with spend. We usually teach that construction with spend. At times, I've seen it taught at A2. Usually, it's taught at B1. So if you know your verb patterns, you might know how we use spend. Let's see how you do with this one. Seemed to have spent. I do hear it from L1 users. However, seemed in the past, and then that extra perfect. Aldo says to spend the whole day answering. That looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah. So Strange says to spent. Now, this is a very, very common rule in English. We don't use to plus past forms, right? To did, we don't say. To was, we don't say. To drank, we don't say. And to spent, with a t, we don't say to spent. So we don't, infinitives don't work like that. We don't use past forms. To spent doesn't work. So the correct answer, or the accepted answer here is, I seemed to spend, and I think the whole day, or we could use all day. Answering. Not too difficult. You need to know that rule about the sequence of past simple plus what kind of infinitive. Simple infinitive to do, continuous infinitive to be doing, perfect infinitive to have done, or perfect continuous infinitive to have been doing. And the best one here is I seemed to spend, not seemed to have spent. I seemed to spend the whole day, or I seemed to spend all day doing something. Spend plus duration plus ing. I spent 3 hours looking at my phone. I spent 4 hours preparing for my class. Spend time doing something. I seemed to spend the whole day or all day answering the phone. What tense is this? Well, seemed is past simple. To spend is an infinitive, and spend time doing something is a verb pattern. So the only verb, the only finite verb we have is this one. That's the only finite verb. Seemed. It's past simple. Glyn, we couldn't hear you, says Mirza. Ooh. I hope you can hear me okay. I hope it's a problem your end, Mirza. No offense, but I hope it's a problem your end. Can someone in the chat just let me know if you can hear me? Because everything that I can see here suggests that things are working. I do have a warning that something about the bitrate. I'm opening my studio now. Something about encoders. Yeah, somebody says they can hear me, so that's really good news. But there is something wrong with the bitrate, apparently. Who knows what that means? Okay. We have a few more to do. And again, this one I think is not massively crazy difficult. And this next one is definitely something that can be used in IELTS speaking. So again, we have this seems. Again, we have this seam. So again, we have some distancing language. And for me, that tone, that is the difference often between someone like a B1 and a B2 versus a C1 and a C2. That ability to use that something seems to be the case, something appears to be the case, not just something is the case. That what we call hedging. It seems that, I don't know for sure, but it seems that Amy was offended by what you said. Amy was offended by what you said. Again, we have what you said, and now we want a different pattern, maybe with seems, but also something with offense. So we have the verb, passive verb, was offended by. Some people might say it's a participle adjective. Some people might say it's a passive verb. To me, it looks more like a passive verb here. Amy was offended by what you said. And we have the noun form, offense. Amy, something with offense, what you said. I'll give you a couple of minutes to put your suggestions in. Marat says may or might have gotten offended. Now, Marat, I'm going to tell you for the third time that we can't change that word offense. We have the word offense. We must use that word offense. We can't change it to offensive or offending or anything like that. We can't change it. We need to keep it. Brian says appears to have taken offense. But, Brian, read the whole sentence. Amy appears to have taken offense what you said. Do you feel like there might be something missing there? And Behruz steps in. Oh, Behruz also said Amy took offense of, but we're losing that hedging, right? We want that seems. And then Behruz says Amy appears to have. Appears to have is great, but with no reason to change seems. And a couple of different prepositions I think are possible. Amy seems to have taken offense of or at what you said. She's taken offense at what you said. She's taken offense of what you said. She's taken offense by what you said. Yeah, taken offense of or at, for me, both of them sound okay. Amy seems to have taken offense. Now, this is, again, these perfect infinitives, they're known to have done something. They're believed to have done something. They seem to have done something. They appear to have done something. How many people really can use perfect infinitives naturally when they need to use them? I tell you who can do that. C2 users of English. Band 8.5s, band 9s, they can find that. Asa says, my whole grammar knowledge comes intuition, never did good with structures. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. You know, there's a long way to learn grammar, which is through exposure to comprehensible input, to absorb the language, to live in the language, and to pick up the language without thinking about it. And then there's the analytical way of learning the language, which is to think like a linguist, to break things down. That's a subject, that's a verb, that's an aspect, that's a tense, that's a thing of modality, that's a modal clause, and that's a modal adverb, and things like this. Not many people need to know the names of all of these structures and all of this linguistic jargon. But yeah, that's the way it is. The only important thing is using it correctly. So can you use things like seem to have done, appear to have done, something is known to have happened? Can you use that language? Because that's the type of stuff when we talk about flexibility and variety. That's the type of language we would expect from the highest level of learners. Remember, this is from a C2 test, so it should not be easy. It should cause you some pain. Yeah, and then we have one more. And again, notice there's some predictive language, some modality here. We have a modal adverb. We are unlikely. Oh, no, sorry, this isn't a modal adverb. We are unlikely. This is an adjective. We are unlikely to have clear weather for our picnic tomorrow. We are unlikely. Now, keep in mind, unlikely doesn't mean that there is no chance. So keep that in mind. And I'm wondering if you'll find that word before prospect, because it's not an easy one to find, this word before prospect. And again, these there is, there are constructions. We teach there is, there are at A1, A2, but who can really use them? Who can really use them? Behru says there is a low, little prospect. Interesting. We'll see what other people have. I haven't worked out the correct answer myself yet. We are unlikely to. Sorry, I'll give you a moment to write your answers in, and I also need to work this out. Okay, got it. I will say, Behruz, the one thing that you've not included is this have. We could do something with this have. There is a slim chance. Now, the problem with you, Ali... Oh, you do have the word prospect. There is a slim chance of weather prospect. So I don't know what weather prospect means. Weather prospect? No idea what that collocation is. Brian asked about with or at or by, when offended by. I've always followed taken offense with the word with. Yeah, take offense with something is absolutely fine. Object of displeasure is the focus, since it's an assumption. Need to read that again. Not sure, Brian, whether the fact that it's an assumption has some relevance there. To take offense of something, to take offense of what someone says, to take offense with what someone says. Yeah, I will add with as another possible preposition there. I haven't checked the book answers. I'm only going with what my brain tells me. Okay, so Murad says there is a slight prospect. a slight prospect kind of sounds, and again, when we speak at the C2 level, we are really getting into flavors, right? There's a slight prospect of sounds fairly optimistic, but we are unlikely to have clear weather, sounds fairly pessimistic. And so while you can say there is a slight prospect, it doesn't match the tone of the first answer. We are unlikely to have pessimistic tone. So you're very close, Murat, but there's definitely something a little better. Distant prospect, nice answer. Little prospect, strange, very good. Little prospect of having, yeah, and I don't know if we want to add, I want to add us. There is little prospect of us having clear weather for our, oh, did I, we have that for our picnic at the end. Sorry, cut that off. Is that visible? Yeah. So there is little prospect of us having, and that's that difference in tone. There's little prospect of us doing this. That's pessimistic. There's a slight prospect of us having nice weather tomorrow. Optimistic. There's a slight prospect. Sounds a bit more optimistic. There's little prospect, or even there's very little prospect if we are very unlikely. There's little prospect of us having clear weather. You could also use another clause there. So you could say little prospect. There is little prospect that we will have clear weather. I mean, that's possible too. There's little prospect that we will have clear weather. That's also possible, but I like that one. There's little prospect of us having clear weather for our picnic tomorrow. So these C2 constructions, some of them do sound a little bit mechanical. Some of them might even sound a bit old-fashioned or archaic, or they may sound a little bit academic in tone. They are certainly not for part 1 of the speaking test, but there's definitely scope that they could be used in part 3 of the speaking test, and definitely potential for them to be used in part 2. Task 2 in the writing, because a lot of it is kind of academic in nature. But the purpose of this stream is just to show you what does it mean for grammar to be at the B2 level? What type of things do we expect from our students? So from our candidates. So if you missed the earlier part, what we would expect from a B2, a couple of things, or a few things. Firstly, that they can use present simple with things like always and never. Secondly, that they can use conditionals, right? Second conditional, third conditional. They might know expressions like something to go on sale, little collocations like this, to go on sale. Expressions like apart from. Causative, have something done. He's going to have his hair cut. He's going to have his food. He's going to have some food delivered. She's going to have her nails painted. Have something done. Some verb patterns like let somebody do something, expect somebody to do something, excuse somebody for doing something. At B2, we would expect candidates to have some control. Not perfect control, but they would have some use of this type of language. That's for the 6.0, 6.5. Just some use of it. At C1, 7.0, 7.5, you really should have fairly good control over this type of language. When we talk about getting to 7.5, 8, then we're looking at constructions like this. There's hardly any petrol left. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it get you, I just let it get me down. You know, you might, from a lower level, you might expect something like, I was disappointed by it. From a higher level, I just let it, unfortunately, I let it get me down. Be reported to be doing something. This use of continuous infinitives. When I do my speaking tests with you guys, with the candidates, the guys who get 6.0, 6.5, you don't use continuous infinitives. And that doesn't mean now that you need to go away and you think, okay, when I take my test, I'm going to use a continuous infinitive and I will get the correct mark. That's not how it works. We can't force ourselves. We can't just spend like 10 minutes writing down a few constructions and then forcing them out. They have to be used appropriately. And that's the difference, that the 7.5s and the 8s, they can use continuous infinitives appropriately, often without thinking about it, to take something seriously. Not crazy difficult, but a nice little expression, to take something seriously, to cause somebody a lot of confusion, or to cause somebody such a lot of, so much, so many, such a lot of expressions like this. So yeah, interesting to see, I think, the difference between some of this B2 grammar and some of this C1 grammar. Now, if I was taking IELTS, this is the first thing that I would do, right? The first thing, and I think I'm going to make a video on this. The first thing I would do is to understand what score do I need? For many people, that's band 7, right? I want to get a band 7 in my speaking. The first thing I would do is I would take a Cambridge Use of English test. I would take the C1 test and I would calculate my score. And if my score was 50%, I would say, okay, probably I have a chance. Not there's little prospect of, but there's a slight prospect of. If you can get 50% in the CAE Use of English, Cambridge Advanced Use of English test, if you can get 50%, you have a chance of getting C1. If you can't get 50% in this test, I would say forget about your IELTS prep. You have to learn English before you can do IELTS. Coders has a question. Although it's not relevant to today's lessons, why are you generous when marking candidates below band 8, but so strict when assessing those who deserve an 8.5 or 9? Sometimes it feels like picking a hole. I don't know what picking a hole means. It's not about me, coders. I think IELTS is imbalanced that way. I think to get a 5.5 is really, really quite easy in IELTS. I wouldn't give, many of the people I've given 5.5 to in these speaking tests on YouTube, I don't think they are B2 at all. And most of the examiners I know also do not agree that 5.5 is B2. They say, no, it's B1. But at the other end of the scale, to get C2 is really, really, really tough. To get 8.5 and 9 is crazy difficult. So IELTS, unfortunately, is the majority or the highest frequency of marks that we see in IELTS are 6.5 and 7. That's what people get, 6.5 and 7. It's not that I'm harsh. It's just that as an examiner, I can look at the criteria that Cambridge Assessment provides for IELTS, and I can match them on the IELTS scale. So coders, it's not about me being strict or me being generous. It's just that's the way that the band descriptors work. That's it. I'm just applying the band descriptors, which is not a difficult thing to do. Ali says, do you think speaking exams on the internet is accurate? Speaking exams is accurate? Like scoring. Don't know what you mean. I don't know how speaking exams on the internet can be accurate. Do you mean the questions? Are they real questions? Do you mean the marking? Is the marking accurate? If you mean the marking, then who's doing the marking? The problem is not the internet. The problem is who's doing the marking. Is it somebody reliable or is it not somebody reliable? If you're paying somebody $5 for a speaking test, it's probably not going to be that reliable, but you might get some valuable feedback. Yeah, coders, I understand that you're talking about the speaking. And certainly there have been a few candidates that I felt like, that should be 9, but I've given 8.5. There was one candidate I gave 8.5 and I thought probably it should be 8. But Strange says, yes, there are millions of IELTS speaking mock tests on YouTube. Do you think they are reliable? If there are millions of them, Strange, statistically we know some of them will be reliable, some of them won't. If you ask me, Strange, about a particular YouTuber, if I know that YouTuber, I might be able to tell you whether I think they're reliable or not. I will say, strange that I've seen some IELTS tests on YouTube where I think the scoring has been absolutely fair, and I've seen others where I thought the scoring was a little bit off. Is it possible to improve IELTS from 5.5 to 6.5 in 3 months? Yeah, probably. But it depends what's going wrong, right? When you say there isn't an objective 5.5 to 6.5, what's going wrong in your... What's causing you to have a 5.5? Now, if you have a bad strategy, going from 5.5 to 6.5 should be fairly easy. If you're trying to activate language that's above your communicative repertoire, then simplifying and focusing on accuracy might get you to that 6.5. However, if your language level, if your grammar and vocab is weak, but your strategy is really, 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 really good, and you're getting a 5.5, which is a little bit above your level, then going to 6.5 will be really, really difficult in 3 months. So yeah, without a diagnostic, I can't really say what your potential in 3 months is without speaking to you. Sometimes you speak to people and you give them a 5.5, but you notice that there's like a lot of language in there, and you feel like if they can calm down, if they can express themselves more clearly, or if they can extend answers a bit more, then they can get a higher mark. With other people, you give them a 5.5 and you think, okay, that's... You've done amazing to get that 5.5. So I can't... Is it possible? Yes. Is it possible for you? I don't know. What about IELTS Advantage and Ross Academy speaking exams? With Ross Academy, the scores tend to be fair, but the feedback is awful, in my opinion. The feedback is pretty much the same all the time, right? Watch any Ross Academy... Is it Ross Academy? I think so. Watch any Ross Academy feedback and you'll say, you need to use more fillers and boosters. And I don't think they know what fillers and boosters means. And I'm sure that the candidate has no idea what the feedback means. They give them feedback and it's always like, you need to use more linkers, use things like despite, however, and so. And it's like the feedback is really not meaningful with Ross Academy. With IELTS Advantage, it's different because the candidates are not real people. They are either people who are selling something, like some guy was selling some like education stuff on there, or they are actors. They are employees who work for IELTS Advantage. So it seems to be that case because it's always the same candidates. It's always a young, beautiful C2 learner of English. She's usually reading from a script and she reads a bad answer, and then Chris says, oh, maybe you could try doing this. And then she does a perfect C2 answer. And then everyone says, wow, Chris, you're an amazing teacher. You took her from band 5 to band 9. It's not real. I'd like to see IELTS Advantage doing something with a real candidate, but that's not what they do. They do things with their employees because they're selling a product. Public band descriptors for speaking and writing seem rather vague. They are not vague, it's just they're written with a lot of jargon. They do allow examiners plenty of flexibility, though, Behruz, you're right. They do allow plenty of flexibility, but they're not vague. They're quite easy to understand, and a lot of these band descriptors are written in that way. Do you happen to know Pauline Cullen? I did read some of Pauline Cullen's book because so many people talked about her. Again, I don't like the way that she structures the essays, but I know that she was an examiner, and I think she worked for Cambridge Assessment, and I think she published some books, some really good, high quality books. So, Pauline is a respectable voice in the IELTS community, and while I can disagree with her on what like an introduction for an essay should be, it doesn't mean that I'm right and she's wrong. I just disagree with her about, the brute force of just paraphrase the sentence and then make the thesis statement. I don't like it. But Pauline Cullen, fine, she's reliable. You can trust what she says. Doesn't mean she's 100% right about everything. Doesn't mean I'm 100% right about everything. Next question. I have a question, bro. Cool. I'm too old to be bro. Are the listening and reading sections similar to the test in the Cambridge books in terms of difficulty level? Yep, Cambridge practice tests, they are taken from past papers. So yeah, same. But they are kind of the difficulty in the speaking, the difficulty in the reading and listening can change. So if let's say everybody does badly, it means it's a difficult reading and you might only need 27 to get a C1. Or it might be a really easy reading where everyone does well and you might need a 32 or a 33. So there is some variation in the difficulty of listening and reading, and that's why Cambridge marks on a curve. So the score that is required for a band 7 can sometimes be 32, sometimes 31, sometimes 30, sometimes 29, sometimes 28. And that depends on how other people perform. But generally, the Cambridge books are very, very reliable in terms of difficulty. Strange says, today I saw a video in which feedback was given about IELTS Advantage and the candidate was giving feedback through the script. He was So IELTS Advantage, as I understand, they have a scheme where they will, if you take their course and you get a good mark and you say, I will make a video recommending IELTS Advantage, they give a refund of the money. I think that's right. I think I saw that. If you take the IELTS Advantage VIP and you get the mark that you need and you're willing to make a video promoting and then they put it on their channel, then you can get a refund. It's really sketchy. And if you look on Quora, if you look like IELTS Advantage on Quora, you'll see about 30 different accounts saying IELTS Advantage is amazing and Chris Pell is the best teacher I've ever met. And you look at these people's accounts on Quora and they've only made one post. Only made one post. So there's something really, really smelly about that whole organization, in my opinion. And those videos, AJ, where people are reading about like how wonderful IELTS Advantage was, I get the sense that they're reading from a script. Whether they wrote that script or somebody else wrote the script for them, I don't know. Okay, so when do you announce IELTS speaking secrets and tips and tricks for Band 9? Never. That's not me. That's somebody else. I don't do tips and tricks. Because there are no tips and tricks. It's a proficiency test, right? People who know English very well and people who speak English very well will get a good mark in speaking. People who don't know English very well and people who can't communicate very well will not get good marks for speaking, even if they use the secrets, the tricks, and the hacks. Bro, I have one question. I'm too old to be bro. How to improve writing section? This is not the place to ask, how do I improve the writing? I can't give you that answer. How do I improve? How do I improve? Learn English. Learn how to write an essay. I will say most people don't get the 7 in writing because of task response. They don't know what an essay is. They don't know what it means to make an argument, to present and support and to back it up with an example. A lot of the argumentation is very weak from writing, even if the language level is high. So the first thing I would say, grammar and vocab. They have to be, if you want a band 7, you have to have advanced grammar and vocab. But also understanding the skill of essay writing, not the skill of IELTS essay writing, the skill of essay writing in the Anglosphere, in the English-speaking world. What does it mean to present an argument and support an argument clearly? That's something that people have a big problem with. I can't tell you exactly how to improve that right now on this live stream because it's a complicated skill. It's step by step. But that's, wow, thanks Grandpa for the answer. You're welcome, my boy. What do you think of a channel Fast Track IELTS? It's okay. It's boring content, mostly, with some bits of fairly useful advice. Nothing special, but it's okay. Like Fast Track, if I was preparing for IELTS, I might be subscribed to Fast Track. I think she does a fairly good job. Yeah, she's okay. That's all I'll say. She's okay. Humayun says, there is a saying that the level of questions is different in reading and there is 1 or 2 band 9 questions. If the candidate isn't that level, they can't get that question. Is that right? Yeah. So IELTS is a multi-level test. Some questions are easier than others. When you train as a teacher, you'll understand how to work with texts, whether that's reading text or listening texts. And what we're always taught is, don't adjust the difficulty of the text, adjust the difficulty of the task. So even if the text is very, very difficult, we can still make questions that are quite easy, average, difficult, or very difficult. And what you will see in IELTS reading is that some of the questions are more difficult than others, because sometimes the wording of the question can be difficult, and sometimes the information that you need to find in the text can be more difficult to understand. Sometimes it can be a vocab issue, sometimes a grammar issue. So yeah, some questions are certainly more difficult than others, both in the wording of the question and the kind of information you need to find. Wox asks, what was your IELTS score? I'm an L1 user of English. IELTS isn't designed for L1 users of English. My type of work means that I would be the type of person who writes the scripts for the test, or I would be the type of person who assesses whether a person has band 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. I don't feel the need to take the test the same way Wox, that probably, if you're from Uzbekistan, you've probably never taken a test for Uzbekistan as a second language, right? Because why would you? I might take the IELTS test just for fun, just because a lot of people asked me, what's your score in IELTS? Do you have a band 9? Would I get a band 9? Yes, of course I would get a band 9. Does it mean that I'm amazing? No, most L1 users of English with a bit of preparation would get a band 9. What do you think about the YouTube channel that's called Expert Examiner IELTS? I don't like it. The guy, he's really arrogant. I don't like the way that he puts forward information like he's an expert and he knows everything and nobody else knows anything. I think he should be fairer to other people. Sometimes I get the impression that he's frustrated with his candidates and the feedback that he gives is a little bit negative, so I definitely would like that guy to be a bit more positive. But I also know that he's Welsh, and Welsh people are just awful. So, yeah, don't like that guy, Expert Examiner IELTS. He's an idiot. AJ says, one examiner checks the writing and speaking, or separate person does, and even your writing part 1 and your writing part 2 will also probably be checked by different people, not the same one. I think all of the writing gets sent off to Australia now. It used to be that, people all over the world would check. I believe they've centralized it in Australia, but don't quote me on that. That's an administrative point. I'm not sure. Jasur says, before the exam, how can I boost my confidence? Dude, who am I? Who am I? Who am I to tell you how to boost your confidence? My job is that I assess people's writing and speaking. That's what I do. That's my job. That's what I get paid for. I speak to people and I read their writing and I tell them what level of English that is. Who am I to tell you how to boost your confidence? Watch Andrew Tate's videos. However, I will say that very often people have a problem, not with confidence, but about speaking under pressure. So it's really, really good if you can put yourself in, if you can put yourself under pressure. That might be public speaking. That might be making recorded YouTube videos. That might be walking down the street and talking to a girl and saying, hey, just wanted to see if I could speak to you. Forcing yourself to use English, going to English-speaking events where you have to introduce yourself to people who you don't know in English, that definitely can boost your confidence. And it's not just about confidence in yourself. It's about having the experience of speaking under pressure. For many people, speaking, the IELTS speaking test is the first time in their lives that they speak English under pressure. The IELTS speaking test should not be the first time that you speak English under pressure. Make YouTube videos. Speaking in front of a camera is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to do. So yeah, try that. Maybe. I came across the idiom to pick holes through Keith, who recommended several idioms for IELTS speaking. That said, I'm now unsure about using it. So to pick holes in something, so it's not just to pick holes, right? It has to be to pick holes in something. And to pick holes in something means that you scrutinize, you analyze things very carefully. You're looking in detail for the problem. So I presented the plan to my friend, but one of my friends is really pedantic and he picked holes in my plan. But can you use it with the problem? And I like Keith. I think Keith is one of the good guys. I don't like IELTS YouTube in general, but Keith is one of the good guys. I think he seems humble. He seems nice. If I met him in person, I think we would get on fine. Maybe he wouldn't like me very much, but he seems like a really nice guy. But I don't like a lot of the content that he produces where it's like, use this template or use this in the IELTS test. I will say that Keith often does say, don't just memorize it and learn it. Figure out or do some work, practice using it, and then try to use it in a natural context. So it is good that Keith often gives that bit of advice. But Keith's a big YouTuber, and usually you become a big YouTuber when you give people the content that they want. And in general, the content that people want is not always, the highest quality content. It's usually things like use these 5 idioms in IELTS speaking, which is, yeah. Some people claim to be former IELTS examiners and make predictions about the exam. These days, people often do this on YouTube. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those prediction videos. I don't know, like they're talking about like what topics might appear. As a former IELTS examiner, you won't have access to that stuff unless you have colleagues. The colleagues really, potentially they are in trouble if they share that information. But the IELTS exam is structured. The Cambridge Assessment are not idiots, IDP are not idiots, and British Council are not idiots. They understand that there are people out there who will be looking for the information, right? What's going to be in the test. They know that, and so they have ways of avoiding that. So if your preparation is that you're trying to predict what topics are going to appear in the test, that is a really, really bad way of preparing for the test. Just learn English, know English, and use English. Strange says, no, that guy's great. Don't know who you're talking about. Keith, probably. Yeah, he is nice. Thank you very much for your answer. That's okay. You're welcome. Thank you, bro. You're welcome, bro. Thank you, Glean, with an I. Wish you all the best. Wish you all the best too, Ali. Thank you for your responses. Got it. Thanks. Cool. What's the difference between TOEFL and IELTS? Often universities accept both. TOEFL is largely for American universities, and I will say I have never, ever taught or examined on TOEFL. Never done it. I've done pretty much every exam under the sun, but not TOEFL. Yeah. But I do know a few people who taught TOEFL, and I know they do the speaking test is recorded, so you do it on a computer, you're given a prompt and you record your answer. I have examined on a number of tests that are very similar to TOEFL, apparently, but I don't know much about TOEFL, like the reading and the listening part. Don't know anything about it, actually. What do you think of IELTS Understood? My problem, Marat, with IELTS Understood is that he says that he's an IELTS examiner, and he can't be an IELTS examiner because if you're an IELTS examiner, you can't do that type of content that he does on YouTube. You can't say, hey, I'm an IELTS examiner, buy my course, right? You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I'm an examiner. I don't work on IELTS, but I'm an examiner for a number of different exams. That's why I call myself an English examiner, not an IELTS examiner. But I have to keep repeating that over and over again because people say, oh, are you an IELTS examiner? Oh, you're an IELTS examiner. And it's like, no, I'm an English examiner. I work on a bunch of different exams, but I don't work on IELTS because I make this content. So IELTS Understood, his content, it's very much copy and paste, I think, from the other big IELTS YouTubers. The videos are very well polished. The production is very good. The camera is very good. The audio is very good. It looks clean. It looks beautiful. In terms of the content, again, nothing special. The same as everyone else, I guess. But he seems like an okay guy. Seems like a nice enough guy, and seems fairly knowledgeable too on English. I think in coming years, speaking test assessment will be AI-based, like PTE. PTE isn't AI-based. I was offered an examining role with PTE. So, yeah, they don't I don't know exactly how PTE does it. I was looking at examining with PTE. It's something, again, I'm not massively familiar with, but I was offered an examining role with them. It's the Pearson test of English, isn't it? Yeah. And the channel Academic English Help. If I'm correct, I remember Academic English Help does like live lessons where you can see him communicating with students, and I love that stuff. I love it when people are brave enough not just to talk the talk, but to walk the walk, where they show what they're doing, because everyone's able to say, oh, I give feedback, or I will teach you this, but no one's willing to show exactly what they do, and I think that's because they're lying. So I think Academic English Help, I might be mistaken, but if it's the content creator that I'm thinking of, I like it because he does these lessons. Do you still work being an IELTS speaking examiner? No. I am not an IELTS examiner. I'm an English examiner. I do still work as an examiner. And sometimes we have incredibly busy periods. Sometimes we have less busy periods. I've done examining on all sorts of stuff from C2 right down to A2. The next few months between March and May, that's going to be busy because I have A1, A2. I have everything. A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2 between March and May. It's going to be mental. And some in face-to-face ones too, which is fun. A lot of examining I do is online examining, but an examining period is coming up between March and May where it'll be face-to-face, so that's fun. One question. One of your writing check videos, you said that in bodies, candidates should start by presenting an argument. Please tell us about other good... Oh, that's not a question. One question. One of your writing check videos, you said that in bodies, candidates should start by presenting an argument. Yeah. Humayun, I don't like it when people start things, they start paragraphs with... oh, you have a follow-on, but Liz said you can start with sentences like, there are some benefits to topic. Yeah. When I give... So, Humayun, IELTS examiners are not given specific instructions on what an essay should be. They are trusted to be able to evaluate essays. So when I say something, and when IELTS Liz says something, and when English Pro Tips says something about what makes a good essay or what doesn't make a good essay, that is not based on their IELTS expertise. It's based on their knowledge of how to write essays. The reason why I don't like topic sentences like, there are many reasons why, is because candidates usually already say that. Usually candidates already say, I'm going to talk about the reasons why this happens. And then the next sentence in the paragraph is, there are many reasons why this happens. And it's like, you're repeating your information. You're not getting into it fast enough. In the introduction, I want to see background. I want to see setting up. I want to see vague responses like, there are several reasons why, which will be further explored in this. The body paragraphs is the protein, and that's where I want to see people getting stuck in. And I feel like when you make sentences, when you start paragraphs like, there are a number of different factors behind the reasons why social media causes the younger generation a number of problems, both connected to their physical. And it's like, what are those problems? Just get into it. So this is a stylistic difference between Liz and me. I like Liz. I don't love the model essays that she has. I think some of them are okay. I don't love them all. But she's a very trusted source, and more importantly, she seems like a very lovely person, and she's definitely very, very knowledgeable. We just have a stylistic difference over essays. I very rarely mark people down just because they use a topic sentence like that, Humayun. But if that type of topic sentence is empty and it uses too many words and it doesn't get into the topic fast enough, sometimes that means that the development can be weaker later on because they've already used, 3 lines using something like that. So, yeah, maybe I need to make videos on how to write an essay. Cause, yeah. Let's see. AJ says, why don't you work on the speaking and writing assessment at Cambridge? I think people can work part-time as well. AJ, I'm not going to respond to that just because When you're an examiner, you have to sign an NDA, which means a non-disclosure agreement, which says, okay, you will not use your current position as an examiner to do stuff, right? You won't say, let's say, for example, TOEFL. If you work as an examiner for TOEFL, you sign a document that says, okay, you're not going to assess candidates and give them marks for TOEFL. You're not going to tell people how that works, blah, 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 blah. That's for security reasons because they want to stop cheating. So there are things that I can talk about. I can talk about IELTS in great detail because I don't work on the IELTS tests. Some of the tests that I do work on, I just can't talk about them because I could be fired. Can we trust the channel Jackie IELTS? I've seen Jackie IELTS' website. I haven't seen her YouTube channel. The website seems okay, but it does seem a little bit like copy-paste of IELTS Liz, no? I don't know. Regardless of whether you are arrogant and narcissistic, you are making great contributions to people's English. Thanks for such generosity. Cool. It's nice to do... It's nice to give feedback. I don't think many people really want to watch an hour of somebody giving feedback, but, you know, it's very, very useful for the candidate. If I was a candidate taking IELTS, and this is going to sound terrible, I would love to have a mock speaking test with me, because I know that I'm the only person that will give minute by minute, second by second feedback. I don't know of anyone else that does this. I mean, do you guys know anyone on YouTube who does this, who'll watch a speaking test back, watch the whole thing, give feedback on that's good, that's okay, that's a bit weird, that's wrong, that's a mistake, that's fantastic, and then give scores and explain them? An examiner? I don't know anyone who does that. So if I was an IELTS candidate, I would definitely have a mock speaking test with me. Marat says, please make a video on how to write an essay. I have videos on my channel of how to write an essay. I can't make you search my channel, but they are on there. Maybe I should make a playlist of some of those videos. Thank you for your time and great content, Glenn. Thank you, Beckruz. Thank you for your company. I'll disappear soon, but I will take a few more questions. Coda says, I want to ask one more thing. Aren't you going to start a speaking course? Please do. You're already spending 3 or 4 hours on YouTube for free anyway. Please start it. It will be worth your time. So, coders, before I did only free speaking tests, and a bunch of people said, please do paid speaking tests. Please do paid speaking tests. We want paid speaking tests. Then I set up the paid speaking test, and do you know what happened? Nobody wanted a paid speaking test. I do have more now. A lot of people are starting to book speaking tests now, paid ones, probably because there's a big discount on at the moment, only until the end of the month. So it is nice that that's happening. And I am planning to do a couple of courses, actually. I've always been against courses, but I looked on Udemy and thought, like, okay, I don't want to do like the IELTS Understood or the Fast Track IELTS where you have to pay like $300 to do like a VIP thing, because I think there's such nonsense. I think if you have money, it's best to get people together, start a group and pay a teacher. But I saw on Udemy they have quite cheap courses for like $20 or something like this, or even $10. And I thought, yeah, maybe I could make, I could just put all of my tips together in one place. The insights that I've had from testing so many people and saying, like, okay, this is what people often do. This is what you could do. So I might make that course. I don't think I'll make much money from it, but I might do it just for the experience of doing it. And just so coders, I can say to people like you, yep, I do have a course. There you go. What's about Up My IELTS? Is this website trustworthy? Never heard of it. Up My IELTS. I've never heard of it. I'm sorry. No one does what you do. Yes, Marat. Feed my ego. Feed it. No one on YouTube. Yeah, certainly. And it's a frustration, right? I think for teachers, it can be also really, really useful if you can see an examiner giving feedback. That can help teachers to give feedback to their students. You are second to none in giving detailed feedback. Yeah, the problem, Jasur, the problem with compliments and nice comments, it's very difficult for me to accept because I see other YouTubers and I see the comment section saying like, this is amazing content. You are amazing. You are the best teacher. And I think, wow, people think that guy is amazing. So when people tell me I'm amazing or my content is great, I can't believe it because it's like, you're part of the public, and the public thinks that that guy and that girl's fantastic when their content is awful, and poor old IELTS Advantage don't know the difference between like a grammar mistake and a vocab mistake, and it's like, but yeah, thanks for the positive comments. I was cooking while listening to you live stream. Oh, sorry about that, which was kind of listening exercise. Yeah, sorry you had that experience. I hope your food is good at least. I've never seen that type of person. Probably I will never see that type of person. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I appreciate, guys, we should share Glyn's videos more. I'm doing the same on Discord. Oh, thank you, AJ. That's definitely one way that that you can definitely help me. I definitely don't, if people don't have money, I don't want them to give money. If they do have some money and they want to book a speaking test, awesome, check out my website, do that. But if you want to, the biggest way that people can help is by liking videos, commenting on videos. Apparently YouTube's algorithm likes that. YouTube's algorithm doesn't like me very much. It doesn't promote me because I make long videos and people usually turn them on, they watch them for 10 seconds, and YouTube gets the information of like, okay, people watch 1% of this guy's content, whereas if I was making 3-minute videos, then YouTube would say, oh, people watch 50% of this guy's videos, let's share it around. So I don't get pushed by the algorithm very much. So the only way I can grow, when people search IELTS, if they're not subscribed to me, they're not going to find my channel. They're going to find other people's channels. So if you like the content or you appreciate the time that I spend on YouTube, then yeah, liking videos, commenting on videos, even if it's a small comment like cool or something like this, that can boost the algorithm, because apparently it likes engagement. I'm not a good social media person, right? I don't want to play this game of like short form content, clickbait titles and stuff like this, and fake thumbnails. I just can't do that to myself. Maybe in the future I'll change my mind, who knows. I watch nearly all your videos. Those are really helpful. Thank you, Humayun. That's very, very kind, and I'm really sorry that you watched all my videos, because nobody deserves that amount of pain. Please do not disappear. I'm not planning on disappear. I have a lot of projects. I'll still continue to do this. I'm not going to disappear. I have a lot of other projects, teaching projects coming up, and I want to do slightly different kinds of content in the future. Maybe some other tests too, like maybe I'll do some CPE or CAE tests. Just to hear you speak, it's so soothing. Well, I have a bit of a cold at the moment. There you go. There's Slon asking that question. When is the next live session? When is the next live session? I don't know. Maybe on Thursday. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe on Thursday. Maybe not. Humayun says, I'm making my students watch your videos. If they're late for class, right? That's the punishment. If you're late for the next class, you'll have to watch Expert Examiner IELTS talking about, I don't know, split infinitives for an hour. No, I'm very honest with you because I appreciate free things. Yeah, that's I spoke to ChatGPT about possibly developing my channel, and ChatGPT said, I'm going to be honest with you, Glyn, you've made a bit of a mistake in preparing or teaching your audience to expect free things. You should never ever do this. It's like, okay, sorry, ChatGPT. Yeah. I'd also like to do some more collaborations this year. I really like doing collaborations. I like speaking to other people in the community. I'd like to see a healthier IELTS community where people are working together more rather than fighting. I saw that Eli from Pro English Tips and Keith, they did something together, and Brick from How to IELTS, he was on Keith's channel. He did something together. I thought that's nice. Aldar says, as I remember, Chris himself got 8 in writing section. How can he teach for getting 9? I am not a fan of Chris from IELTS Advantage at all. And I don't think he's a great teacher at all. However, I will say that if he wants to get a 9, he can get a 9. If he got an 8 in IELTS writing, there must be a reason why he did that. Probably he did it on purpose. Maybe he wanted to do an experiment like, what would happen if I only used really simple ideas and really simple language? What's the maximum score I could get? Maybe he has students who are hoping to get an 8, and maybe he decided to do a really, really, really simple writing to get that 8, to show his students that, you can do writing in the simple way and still get an 8. If Chris wanted to get a 9 in writing, he could get a 9 in writing. I have no doubt about that at all. Yeah, so, and that's coming from one of his biggest critics. He can get a 9 in writing, trust me. It's really not hard for L1 users. Good luck. Have a good day, evening, and get well. Yeah, really should get well. I'll take 1 or 2 more questions if anyone has any, and then I will duck out. I don't know how many people. 205 views in total. Not a hell of a lot, but okay. It's something. Nice answer, thank you. Cool. Good to hear it. And I know there is a bit of a delay. Again, I'll mention it, a bit of a delay. We do have something. No, they are learning from your videos, IELTS writing band descriptors, and see how task response is a problem for many students. Task response is a huge problem. And I think, it could, I've heard different theories about why this happens. It might be like in the Anglosphere, we make arguments in a particular way, or we write essays in a particular way that is different from how other countries write essays. So there is some people have accused IELTS of being a little bit discriminatory, but academic IELTS is designed for people who want to study in the Anglosphere. So if you want to study in the Anglosphere, you should be expected to do some academic writing that conforms to the normal standard practices of academic English in the Anglosphere. But yeah, learning that skill of essay writing is hugely important. I think for your life skills, critical thinking, making arguments, being clear with your language, essay writing can really help to make you a better speaker of English as well as a better writer. Already looking forward for our next live stream, says Strange. Yeah, I'll be doing it sometime soon, hopefully this week, maybe next week. Is Diary of the CEO podcast effective for listening and speaking? I think, there is a saying that all practice is good practice. The important thing, Jasur, is that it should be compelling and comprehensible. Compelling means it's interesting for you, you really, really like it, and comprehensible means you can understand it. So if you can understand 80% of something and you enjoy that content, you'll learn a lot. If it's not comprehensible, if you have difficulties understanding 80% of it, and if the subject is not interesting for you, Noam Chomsky, the famous linguist, talks about this a lot, this affective filter. If you don't like it, you won't learn it. Your brain won't learn it. So find content that is understandable and enjoyable. I actually have a podcast called the Comprehensible Input Podcast. I started it as an experiment last year. I haven't maintained it, but I tried to have quite simple conversations with quite interesting people. So check out the Comprehensible Input Podcast. I will be hopefully doing more episodes on that this year. But yeah, if you like Diary of a CEO, watch it. If you enjoy it, then it's good for you. What do you think of a girl whose name is Saya from Kazakhstan, the youngest girl who's ever got 9.0 in Kazakhstan? Never heard of her. Sorry, I'll look her up. Oh, maybe I did. She was on Eli's channel, right? Pro IELTS. I think she was there 6 months ago or something. She went famous on TikTok. She was crying. She was like, Mama, я получил 9, or something like this. I think I have seen her. I saw her speaking test on Eli's channel, and I thought, band 8, not band 9, maybe not even 8.5. But, for someone that age to get a 9 is absolutely incredible. She should be incredibly proud of herself. I didn't rate her performance as a band 9, to be honest, but still a very, very, very impressive speaker. And she got her band 9. Doesn't matter what I say, she got her band 9. If you took the IELTS exam, would you be able to get band 9 in all 4 sections? Yes, coders, yes, is the short answer. Yes. Of course. I'm first of all, I'm an L1 user of English. Secondly, I'm a sociolinguist, right? have education in linguistics. Thirdly, I'm a teacher. Fourthly, I'm an examiner. If I can't get a band 9 in all 4 sections, then nobody in the world should be able to do that, because I'm not like bigging myself up. I'm just saying that I'm an expert in this field. So if I can't get a band 9, who can get a band 9? Rumor has it she bought it. No, I don't think she bought it. There are some rumors of corruption and things like this. Oh, I missed AJ's comment. It's 1:45 in India. Sometimes I think time zones are also the reason some people can't connect. Yeah, I would like to do, AJ, I would like to do more time-friendly streams for people. It's just that usually during the day I'm doing my day job. So it's unfortunate, but I would like to do something, because I know in India, India and Bangladesh, I do have some viewers, and maybe I should try to make some streams that are friendly for them. Yes, I understand well, and also it is very interesting to me. I am on the right track. Yeah, if you like Diary of a CEO, I find the guy, it's always a little bit like, at the beginning, it's like, why you should never drink water. It's like, what? You should never drink water? I need to watch this. And it's always like something like, you can gain 40 kilos of muscles in a week if you eat this one special thing. And I always think like, yeah, come on. Everyone's playing the clickbait game, and I don't like this trend. But maybe it's always been there. Retiring at the age of 40. What do you think about this idea? Yeah, I often say, Humayun, that I'm in semi-retirement now. I don't have, like... I work for myself, and I work as much or as little as I want, so I'm 42. I don't think I wouldn't call myself semi-retired, but I often feel like I'm semi-retired. I have enough free time that I can do live streams like this. I have my day job where I teach and I examine, but I still have plenty of time to get on with other projects, so... If you can retire at the age of 40, fine, but, I don't know why you'd ask an English examiner what I think of that. But yeah, great, but you need a passion. You definitely need something. You are 42? Yeah, I'm not 42,222, I'm 42. Yeah, 42 years old. I know, Murat, I know. You look much younger. Cool, but, it's a YouTube video. Who knows? I have a nice ring light, and maybe if you could see the grey in my hair, you might change your mind. But yeah, I'm 42. Sometimes I feel younger, sometimes I feel older. Right now I feel a bit sick. But yeah, if you can retire at 40, first of all, financial freedom, and secondly, passion. Find something that you want to do it. A nice way to live. It's really nice when you don't rely on other people for your living, I will say that. Anyway, guys, thank you for your company. I've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes, so probably it's time for me to duck out. I'll make a video to duck out, to pick holes in something. Any kids? No, not for me, not my circus. Other people, I have nephews and a niece, and that's cool. They're wonderful. They're really nice, and it's fun to spend time with them. But yeah, it's not something that not something that's going to happen for me by choice. Yeah, so again, thank you for your company. If you want to support me, do feel free to share my channel around, share my videos, and say, that guy's cool. That narcissist, egotistical person is cool. And if you want to do a practice speaking test, you can buy one from expertexaminer.com. If you want to buy a writing check, you can buy one from expertexaminer.com. If you don't want to buy anything and you only want free stuff, then join my Telegram group. That's where I make announcements about, like, I'm going live, I'm doing this speaking test, I'm doing a writing check. Telegram is the place to check me out. Yeah, so I'll head off. I'll duck out. All right, thanks everybody for your company. More videos from me coming soon.